You've heard of vibe coding, building software by vibing with AI instead of writing every line yourself. I've been doing something stranger. I've been doing vibe philosophy, using AI as a thinking partner to build a formal theory of mind, and it's producing results I never expected. Here's the premise. What if the bottleneck in philosophy of mind was never intelligence, but bandwidth? A single human thinker can hold maybe 5 to 7 concepts in working memory. A philosophical framework needs hundreds of moving parts in coherent relation. What happens when you remove that bottleneck? I started with a simple felt intuition, the kind of thing you'd scribble on a napkin. Cognition isn't one thing. There's fast and slow, fluent and effortful, personal and empathic. These feel like fundamentally different depths of processing. That napkin note became a formal theory with 12 cells, 6 operations, 9 loops, and 5 invariants. Let me explain what vibe philosophy actually looks like in practice. You don't hand AI a prompt and receive a philosophy. That produces slop. You think with it. You bring the felt sense of what's true. The AI brings the bandwidth to formalize, cross-reference, pressure test, and extend. It's closer to jazz than engineering, I'd say. Something about Peirce's categories maps onto processing depth. Firstness is immediate quality. Secondness is brute encounter. Thirdness is mediated understanding. I would formalize it. Then I'd feel whether the formalization was alive or dead. That feeling is the vibe. It's doing real philosophical work. Here's what surprised me. The AI doesn't just transcribe your ideas faster. It changes the kind of thinking you can do. With a human collaborator, you spend 80% of your time getting them up to speed on your framework. With AI, that overhead drops to near zero. You can stay at the frontier of your own thought continuously. The result is a framework called Quaternion process theory, QPT. It started from that napkin intuition about cognitive depth and evolved through a specific developmental path. Phenomenology, process ontology, invariance, loop architecture, pattern language, agapic evolution, adaptive composition, perspectival pluralism, game theory. Each layer required by the last. Let me give you one example of what vibe philosophy produces that traditional philosophy struggles with. QPT needed to explain why its generating function produces exactly 5 invariants from a 12-cell matrix. Not 12. Not 3. 5. For versions 3.1 through 3.7, this was stipulated, just asserted as a given. That stipulation always felt wrong, not analytically wrong. It felt inelegant, like a musician hearing a note that's technically correct but doesn't belong. That qualitative discomfort, felt before it could be articulated, drove the next version. Working with AI, I could iterate on formalizations until one matched the feeling. The solution, the arity-graded invariance principle. Monadic categories, things in themselves, can only support one invariant with multiple access modes. Dyadic categories, things in relation, support partial differentiation. Triadic categories, things mediating between others, support full differentiation. 1 + 1 + 3 = 5. Derived, not stipulated. Now here's the thing traditional philosophy can't easily do. Once that derivation clicked, I could immediately ask the AI to check whether it was backward compatible with 7 prior versions of the framework. Every loop path, every viability condition, every composition operator. It was. Nothing broke. The warrant changed, the results held. But wait, you're thinking. Isn't the AI just telling you what you want to hear? Fair concern. And the answer is, sometimes yes. That's why vibe philosophy requires something specific from the human that the AI cannot provide. You have to be the quality sensor. QPT actually has a name for this capacity. Cell 1, CE, the felt quality of formal structures perceived before analytical processing. This architecture feels elegant, before you know why. This argument feels brittle, before you find the flaw. The human brings 1, CE. The AI brings 3, CE, formal elaboration at scale. Neither alone is sufficient. Here's where it gets meta. QPT describes development as agapic, growth through felt attraction toward viable configurations, not through force or accident. The process of building QPT with AI is itself agapic. You feel your way toward formalizations that are alive rather than dead. The theory describes the method that produced it. Vibe coding works because LLMs can hold enormous code bases in context and generate syntactically valid code. The human provides taste, direction, and judgment. Vibe philosophy works for the same reason. LLMs can hold enormous conceptual architectures in context and generate logically coherent extensions. The human provides philosophical taste, the sense of what's true. What vibe philosophy is not, Asking ChatGPT, what is consciousness? Having I summarize existing philosophy. Generating plausible-sounding nonsense at scale. What it is. Sustained collaborative formalization of felt intuitions. Rapid iteration between felt quality and formal structure. Using AI bandwidth to build architectures no single mind could hold. The most powerful move in vibe philosophy. Asking the AI to critique your own framework. When I asked for a rigorous critique of QPT's developmental arc, it identified that the game theory extension feels bolted on rather than generated, imported from outside rather than derived from the matrix's own machinery. That critique was right, and it's now driving the next version. Here's the prediction I'll stake my reputation on. Within 5 years, the most important philosophical frameworks won't come from solo thinkers publishing papers. They'll come from thinkers who use AI the way musicians use instruments, as extensions of cognitive capacity that let them play compositions they could hear internally but never perform alone. If you want to try vibe philosophy yourself, here's the starting point. Find something you feel is true about the mind, but can't yet articulate formally. Sit with that feeling. Don't rush past it. Then bring it to AI, not as a question to be answered, but as an intuition to be formalized together. The vibe is the signal. The formalization is the instrument. Vibe coding showed us that taste plus AI bandwidth equals software that works. Vibe philosophy suggests something deeper. Felt quality is not a fuzzy pre-analytical stage to be transcended. It is a cognitive organ, the one that senses whether a formal structure is alive or dead. AI gives that organ an orchestra to conduct. The philosophy of mind just found its instrument.